What's up, y'all? It's me, Alask. In today's video, as a special for reaching 10 subscribers, I'll be recreating the first page of my first and only object show comic. To keep the video more organized, I'm leaving a list of the sections and their timestamps so you can skip to the parts that interest you. Aside from recreating my comic in higher quality, I'll also be designing characters I haven't drawn yet, explaining the show, and, of course, working on the comic recreation. Without further delay, let's get started. The premise is simple. 24 objects divided into 4 teams compete for the grand prize, an island. Yes, just like Mr. Beast. In each challenge, teams compete for placement. First, second, third, or fourth. The best team takes first place, while the worst ends up in fourth. But here's the twist. The team that places fourth will have to put 2 of its members at risk of elimination. One is chosen by a vote within their own team, while the other is selected by the captain of the winning team. That's why securing first place is so important. It grants advantages. However, the real power lies with the captains. If their team wins, they not only pick someone from the last place team for elimination, but also gain an extra ability, saving a contestant from the team that placed third. The third place team must also send 1 contestant to elimination, but in this case, their own captain makes the choice. However, they cannot pick the player who was saved by the first place team. With 3 contestants now at risk, how is the eliminated player decided? Through an elimination challenge. The 3 chosen contestants will face off in a competition, whether physical, mental, or a mix of both, and the one who places last is eliminated from the episode. A bit confusing? Huh. As I mentioned, 24 contestants are competing in the show. I actually have a video on my channel where I showcase all my object show assets, and most of them are based on the original comic characters. As you can see, stick, crystal, pipe, key, police badge, spooky bag, harpoon tip, eraser spray, clip, magnifying glass, domino, rudder, mushroom, laser pointer, magic wand, banner, soda, rubber band, click, plus 4 more. But why didn't I mention those 4? Well, it's because they were never drawn. I have my reasons for never designing them in full HD. But hey, how about we redraw them in HD while I tell you why? Let's make a drawing montage for each of them. And here we have Speaker, one of the original characters from my object show comic. As you can see, his design is pretty simple but effective. He's basically a portable speaker with a square shape and a big speaker in the center. I decided to make his main color purple because there weren't many characters with this color in the cast. Plus, I like how it contrasted with the darker tones of the speaker. One of the biggest problems I had with Speaker was his eyes. I never really knew where to place them. If I put them on top, it looked weird, and if I placed them on the speaker itself, it fell out of place. That's why, in some versions of his design, I gave him glasses to fix the issue. His personality was that of a cool guy, always blasting his music, especially rock. This helped him in some challenges, but in others, he ended up unintentionally sabotaging his team. I really liked him as a character, but in the end, I decided to replace him because in the original story, he didn't have a very important role, and his design never fully convinced me. You're probably wondering who I replaced Speaker with. Well, that's an easy question. I swapped him for Potato. I realized my show needed more smart and strategic characters, so I thought, what object could fit those characteristics? And obviously, I chose a nerdy potato with glasses. I think he's a much better addition to the cast. But hey, since we're redesigning the comic, there's no room for potatoes now. But here he is in all his glory, Speaker, the rocker who never got the chance to shine in the show. The next redesign is Chocolate Coiny, a kind and innocent character, but absolutely terrible at challenges. Her physical abilities were practically non-existent, and she never really knew what to do. So what was the problem? Every time her team placed third, the winning team would give her immunity, letting her advance far into the competition simply because they knew she was a burden to her team. Despite this, Chocolate Coiny always tried her best and helped her teammates however she could. Her design wasn't too complex. Golden wrapping for the chocolate bar, with a bit of silver to highlight the metallic side of the wrapper, and brown for the chocolate itself. But as I mentioned, being such a weak contestant who contributed little to challenges made her an uninteresting character. She only outlasted more engaging competitors due to the competition's twist. So, I needed a replacement with more personality and abilities. That's why I designed Peg. She keeps the same passion for helping her team, but has a much stronger problem-solving mind. She's still physically weak, but she makes up for it with her intelligence, becoming the group's mom figure. The next two can be summed up in just 2 words. Boring. Boring. Let's start with Plug. Plug had this personality? Exactly none. I had no idea what to do with him. His design was interesting, but for the theme of the show, he just didn't fit. That's why he literally only appeared twice, both times in the elimination area. Plug was based on European plugs, completely white, with a screw in the center and golden parts that, to this day, I still wonder what they're for. But hey, they look cool. The problem is obvious. Plug was designed to be eliminated. His only fun moment was in an elimination challenge that involved basketball. And as the only contestant without hands, he was obviously the first one out. Since he had no real personality, I had to think about what the show was missing. And then it hit me. Evil. I needed a chaotic character. Not the funny kind of chaotic, but the evil kind. Someone who wouldn't follow the rules and would make the game more interesting. I also wanted to keep a similar small size design like Chocolate Coiny. So I created Lemon Jelly, or as I like to call him, Demon Jelly. This character is pure chaos. He's here to have fun, stay in the game as long as possible, and torment both allies and enemies along the way. And finally, we have Tape, with the same personality as a rock. And no, I'm not talking about Rocky. I designed him thinking that having Tape as an ability could be useful in many situations. Spoiler alert, he only had one important moment where it actually helped him win. So, hey, at least he achieved something the other 3 didn't, being relevant in one challenge. I always imagined him as yellow with a green protector, so that's exactly what I did. I chose a light yellow and a light green to make him stand out from the other green characters, darkening the protector that was farther away for contrast. Since he also lacked a personality, I wanted to create a fun and clumsy character, someone I could personally relate to because, well, I'm like that too, haha. And that's how Bottle Cup was born, one of my favorite designs in my opinion. Silly, fun, clumsy, a gamer, and a bit of an athlete, just a few words to describe him. I think he's way better than our friend Tape. No offense, bro. Phew. 4 new designs in one video. I think that deserve a like, don't you? Ha ha ha. Here you have the before and after of the characters. Now it's time to create the comic. The page we're recreating today doesn't have a lot of content. Just the contestants, the host, the prize, the island, and a super short explanation of the first challenge. This first challenge was the most important because it determined the captains of the 4 teams, who would later choose their team members. As you could see, my hand-drawing skills weren't the best, but hey, I had a lot of determination, that's for sure. I can tell you that I actually hated drawing some of my characters because they took so long to draw. Haha. Examples of this would be Crystal or especially Rudder, who was my least favorite to draw. But deep down, I love him. On the other hand, there were characters like Banner or Police Badge. Since they had very simple shapes, they were much easier to draw. So they ended up getting more screen time. Haha. The challenge itself is simple. First, climb a wall using ropes. Then, navigate through a dark forest, using vines to move faster if needed, and finally, reach a carpet of the color you want for your team. Pretty straightforward. I designed this challenge to highlight the captain's abilities, speed, navigation skills, and a few surprises along the way. I won't reveal who won, since that's in the next page, but if this video gets enough support, I'll make the next part. At first, I didn't give the teams any names, but once the captains were chosen, I figured they needed one. So, each team was named based on the personality of its captain. I can also confess that this season had 3 hosts, and none of them were the orange Hawaiian flower you all love. I didn't know what design to give it the first 2 times. At first, it was a microphone with a bow tie, then just a floating face in the air, my lazy face. And finally, the design that stayed in the end, but I won't tell you what it is in case I decide to keep renewing the comic. The island's aesthetics are quite similar to the one from Inanimate Insanity Season 3, complete with a volcano. Because let's be honest, volcanoes are awesome. The final prize was the island itself and $2.5 million, and the contestants had to survive for 31 days in the competition. It's heavily inspired by survival-based reality shows, where they have to gather materials to make fire, build a shelter, and find food to stay nourished. Most of the challenges were quite realistic. Nothing like going to space or anything crazy, but they still had their own touch of surrealism. If you made it to this part of the video, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This video is long because it's a celebration of reaching 10 subscribers, and I'm really happy to share what excites me with people who actually enjoy it too. Here's the before and after of the characters and the comic. I'll sign off now. Hope to see you in the next video.